Hello everybody, it's Mark Sage, Executive Director of the Area AR for Enterprise Alliance, and we're back again with one of our fireside chats where we speak to industry experts and people that have actually deployed AR technology just to get the latest information from them, talk about what they've done and what they're doing. And I'm really pleased to get an old friend and a real expert and someone I've known for a number of years, John Thurgood, or JT as we all know him. JT, welcome. Thank you for spending some time. It'd be great if you just introduce yourself and a little bit about the work that you've done.
Sure. So as Mark says, I'm JT. I'm a consultant in the XR industry. I've been in mobile all my career, but joined RealWear back in the day now, 2016. Working through their wonderful set of devices. Decided that I really wanted to take this technology and get it deployed. So then went to join Shell in terms of a real large deployment. And we deployed over 500 of their devices. But in the mix of all of that, I've worked with, excellent devices like DigiLens and Oculus, really the whole kind of mix of extended reality, really. So yes, I'm a contractor in the marketplace, have experience in deployments, and it's a really kind of interesting area, and looking forward to some of these questions, Mark.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, JT. Well, let's start because you are an expert and have deployed wearable devices. Let's start with that. Enterprise
Sure.
deployments of wearables. What we see is endless, and the area use the term pilot purgatory, POCs, proof of concepts, and stuff like that, and PPE, which I know is something you've done some really interesting stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone understands that kind of, the proving the technology. I mean, what typically happens is a product comes to market, and the manufacturers of that product have, something with vision. It's really exciting, and maybe they've got one or two use cases, but they're not really specific to an end deployment, if you like.
Mm.
It takes the technologists within an enterprise, in my experience, to then look at that technology and say, right, okay, well, that looks great. Let's have a look. Let's test, and does it do what it says on the tin? And then, right, how do we then take that and make it valuable to our operations? And so, so that's your proof of concept, right? The device comes in and they do some testing and they say, hey, great, it does what it says on the tin. It then goes off into this process within an organization of trying to strategize. Where is it going to fit within operations? What are the benefits, most importantly, of those operations? Um, and that part of the organization would look at that first of all, before it decided to get into the corporate pieces of, does it work with our corporate infrastructure? Does it work with Microsoft products, for example, or can it be used with these other systems in the field? And oftentimes there's a gap between that proof of concept in terms of, does the product do what it's supposed to do in the first instance, and then getting it really tested on site and deployed out at scale. And from a manufacturer perspective, they're looking for turnaround in short periods of time. So you're looking at 3 months, in order from the first point of getting maybe a wearable into a customer, through to then seeing vision of some sales. And
Mm.
from their perspective, they're focused on supporting that hardware sale. They haven't got all of the time in the world to go and sit with the customer, work out what the customer needs, and kind of do that job for them. So what's required within an enterprise to make these things happen is really the stakeholders. So, the stakeholders need to understand why the technology is very important. Um, and that means there's a financial benefit. There might be a health and safety benefit. So, it might work with some other improvements they're trying to make in that operation. Most importantly, or very importantly, how does it fit within all of the other programs that are going on? I mean, how many
Mm.
times have you sat with an operation and they've said, do you know what? We haven't implemented those proof of concepts that we did 3 years ago, and you're asking us now to come and get kind of involved and dedicate time, effort, and energy to putting this particular one in place. So, you know, that there are many kind of segments of this area, and I don't see that a manufacturer or a solution provider are really best positioned to do that. You really need someone independent. And, you know, from the operation themselves within an enterprise business, we can't look at them as if they're experts in this field. You know, if you say nerf to somebody, or you say wearable to, you know, to someone in an operation, what does that mean? Well, you know, I haven't had the time to work out what this means in my world, you know, even though the business might be asking me to go and spend a lot of time in it. So, you know, what I've tended to do is to step in the middle there and try to help find the right technology in the first place for the problem that exists, and then work within the organization to try to extol the virtues of it, right the way through to deployment. You know, the point of having this solution stack is that there's an end result and a benefit to the corporate. And you know, what often happens as well is that you deploy it, it gets lost in the myriad of other things that are going on. No one reports on it, and it kind of gets forgotten about.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's kind of, Mark, where I feel that this kind of separation between the POC and a deployment takes place. You know, you mentioned PPE as well, Mark. As these solutions come by, you know, they need to be adapted to, you know, I've got some hard hats and so on around here, but based on the industry that you're in, there's lots of other things going on, and it needs to be synergistic with those.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Actually, within the area safety committee, we're just doing a piece on PPE at the moment. So kind of reasonably simple, looking at the different types of PPE and looking at the kind of modality that you use to control a wearable, albeit voice, gesture, touch pads, and things like that, and just helping kind of companies to map that out a little bit, and so they can at least make a kind of simple, okay, if I'm using this kind of thing, what kind of modality should I be using? I know that's, you know, then the wearable has to support it, but we know
Yeah.
that kind of most of them do that. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting piece.
And an interesting add-on just to that, Mark. It only takes one objection, one problem in this cycle to maybe stop progress. So if
Mm.
I can't get a clip for my PPE, if I have to take my gloves off to use a keyboard to control something, these are all, you know, these are all adoption problems that we really have to think about at the outset, and not when we're at the point of deployment. So yeah, any
Yeah,
simple reasons that come across can be reasons not to proceed from a POC.
absolutely. No, that's great. So going on to the next question, and we're actually doing a lot of work on this at the moment in terms of the area, but the bigger kind of family that we belong to, the Object Management Group, OMG, and Digital Twin Consortium, it's about that kind of intersection of AI and XR. I'm going to ask you the question about kind of AI on wearables. Is it useful? Why is it useful? Your thoughts on that would be great.
Well, I mean, this is, you know, I'm a technologist. This is where it gets sexy. Okay. So, you know, we're, as humans, we're augmenting ourselves with technology, watches, mobile phones. We're using this technology more and more to give us information in real time and to capture that information, and to feed it onto other systems. So, you know, for example, in my recent experiences, I've demonstrated ChatGPT running on a wearable in the field using natural language to capture, first of all, my voice, talking about the subject matter that I'm inspecting. So, you know, it could be a vehicle. What conditions are the tires in? You know, can I see through the windscreen? You know, I'm using a very simple example here. But the point is, I'm using natural language to talk into my wearable that's capturing the information, converting that and formatting that in the way that my model requires within ChatGPT, and then generating a, you know, a correctly formatted, spell checked, output that, in the cases of the demonstrations I was doing recently, was actually outputting in multiple languages and then passing the information back over MS Teams. And from, you know, from the user in the field's perspective, they may have a, you know, God forbid, a paper-based process of doing this today, or if they're holding a tablet, they're using their hands, and they're having to click on checkboxes and maybe even type some content in. This removes that barrier of physical use. Start typing away their notes and then uploading the information and imagery, of course, later on. So, inspections is one example using, ChatGPT, where that can help reduce time, um, ease of use because they're holding and carrying less equipment, and allowing them more time in the field to do the jobs that they're really supposed to be doing.
Mm.
Other examples of AI on wearables also recently have used machine vision or computer vision to remotely capture content from the field, um, and place that content on, some form of digital twin, or um, similar system, so that you might be doing something as simple as detecting who is and who isn't wearing PPE. That would then be the next step to that would be the supervisor saying, "Hey, JT, could you put could you wear your vest? Can you conform for your own safety to the advice you've been given?" So it's a bit of a reminder, low level type activity, right the way through to you know let's say we're using infrared or thermal imaging within a wearable. As you're walking around site, you could be a security guard, for example, who's doing a perimeter round or walk. Um, the technology can capture ambient noise, thermal imaging, normal imaging. Am I detecting a break in the fence? Am I seeing a leak? Am I seeing seepage? Is there foliage that needs to be cut back? Am I seeing a thermal bloom through the system that I wouldn't be able to see with my naked eye? And then obviously systems will process that and identify and raise areas of concern within the monitoring system. So we can start to understand how we can augment the worker in the field with a lot of technology combined with AI, understanding through rules and building, you know, a database of this information. We can start to identify what's normal practice, what's abnormal, what do we do about it. And then of course, as we're capturing that information autonomously, I mean, the user doesn't need to know in
Mm.
many cases that this is being captured. We can start to, you know, update a nerf, update a digital twin with this information, meaning that we've got a historic record of what's gone on. We can see what warnings, notices, alerts that we ought to be raising. And, in doing so, we can start to predict the future. We can see, great, okay, ambient noise is a problem within this area. Let's go investigate why. Or it takes this amount of time to perform this, project on a site. We can start to see the practical elements that we need to go through, predict the future. And of course, from a many to one perspective. If I've got lots of people looking at this information and systems monitoring them, well, they can take the same information and take different aspects of views on what may or might be wrong with the operation that the worker's going through, and areas of improvement. So, you know, I say sexy and exciting because isn't this the direction of travel?
Mm.
We have glasses, we have mobile phones, we have, you know, all of this technology is there to enable us to do things smarter, quicker, safer than we have done in the past. Sorry for the dialogue there, Mark. I went on
No,
for a
no, no,
bit,
no,
but
that's
it's
great. No, it's
exciting,
no,
isn't it?
no, that's some great kind of insights and things like that. And I think, us in the industry see that combination
Mm.
of AI and XR being kind of really strong. And whilst you've spoken very well about that, just a final question in a couple of minutes. What's kind of recent innovations are you seeing in wearables that have raised the interest in kind of the enterprise space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of an extension of what I may have gone through a few minutes ago. So, we have technology that we're wearing. The sensors are becoming more sophisticated. The speed of the processors are becoming faster. The available RAM. How much can we capture and then send up to the mothership for further communication. A really good example is thermal imaging. I happened to be going around a terminal, an oil and gas terminal last year, and I was using thermal imaging on a wearable to tell me, and this was, kind of 75 meters away, so quite a distance. It gave me within 1 centigrade error the levels within that tank. And just to explain, these tanks that we see when we pass these big industrial areas, they're generally some form of bladder within a tank, so you've got multiple layers to go through. Well, what the operator was able to see, me in this case, is what pipes going to and from are actually full of product, because solar energy had lit them up when they're empty, they're darker when they're full. If I look at the tank, I can start to visually see from a distance what condition these tanks are in. So the sensors on these devices are giving us more information. We have to interpret them. That's the direction of travel. Innovations are, it could be gas detection. I've talked about machine vision. I'm walking around, I'm seeing a problem in the field from a systems perspective, from the wearable, but as an operator, I'm really on site to perform the works object that I've been, employed and tasked to go and fix. I can't be distracted by the myriad of things on the side, but our systems can start to do that for us in the background. So yeah, I think that's incredibly interesting, time saving, adding to safety, and requiring less people to maybe be in the field, in the line of fire from a safety angle.
Perfect. JT, that's great. I think we'll hold it there. I'm sure we'll have another catch up and some more of your insights. But thank you very much for your time and your conversation today.
Look forward to it. Thank you for everyone for listening. Take care.